Ella grew up in a quiet town in rural Africa, where everyone knew each other and secrets were rarely hidden for long. Ever since she was little, she felt a strange connection with the dense forest that surrounded her home. The whispers of the wind between the trees seemed like voices calling to her, and the luminous eyes that appeared between the bushes on dark nights never caused her fear. On the contrary, they brought a strange comfort. Before we dive into this unbelievable story, leave your like and subscribe to the channel to help us reach 1,000 subscribers. Her parents, Sophia and Antonio, raised her with love, but there was always a heaviness in her mother's eyes, as if she were hiding a great secret. Ella grew up hearing legends about ancient creatures and protective forest spirits, but never paid much attention until the day she met a cat with intense green eyes. From that moment on, the animal never left her. It appeared whenever she was alone and, in an inexplicable way, made her feel safe. Over the years, the feline's unusual behavior aroused suspicion among the town's residents. Rumors began to circulate that Ella had some connection to the occult. When Henry, a respected young farmer, asked for her hand in marriage, the rumors intensified. However, the young woman believed that their love would be able to silence the gossip. What she didn't expect was that fate was about to reveal truths that would change her life forever. The day of the engagement was supposed to be a celebration of happiness, but everything fell apart when, in the middle of the party, the green-eyed cat appeared. A cold wind blew through the room as the animal entered silently, staring intensely at Henry. Tension quickly spread among the guests, and the groom's reaction was instantaneous. He paled and backed away, as if he were facing mortal danger. Driven by fear and the pressures of the community, Henry broke off the engagement right then and there. The shock was immediate. Ella saw her life collapse in a matter of seconds, humiliated and discredited by those who had once admired her. For the locals, that was the definitive sign that there was something wrong with her. Some whispered of witchcraft, others of a curse. Devastated, Ella decided to look for answers. She sought out Mia, an old woman known for her knowledge of ancient mysteries. Mia told her about legends that spoke of guardian spirits and beings condemned to live between two worlds. Desperate to understand her connection with the cat, Ella decided to confront it and discover the truth. That night, Ella felt she could no longer ignore the signs. She grabbed a cloak and followed the green-eyed cat into the forest. The high moon illuminated the path, and the absolute silence made the landscape seem otherworldly. The air was colder than usual, and every step seemed to echo in the dense darkness. She had never ventured this far. The animal walked ahead, stopping from time to stare at her, as if making sure she would follow. Ella's heart was pounding, a mixture of fear and an inexplicable intuition that she was about to discover something that would change her life forever. After what seemed like hours, they reached a clearing in the middle of the forest. In the center, there was a circle of stones covered in moss, like an altar forgotten by time. The cat sat there, staring at her. Ella hesitated, but then remembered what Mia had told her. The truth is hidden between the veils of night, and only blood can tear them apart. With the runic knife Mia had given her, Ella cut the palm of her own hand. The blood ran hot and glistened in the moonlight before dripping onto the stones. The air around her shuddered, and a sharp wind blew across the clearing. The cat looked up at Ella and, in a terrifying instant, began to squirm. Its bones cracked, its skin changed shape, and a guttural scream echoed through the forest. Ella recoiled in horror as she watched the cat transform before her eyes. Hair disappeared, limbs lengthened, and suddenly, where there had once been a feline, there was now a young woman. But not just any woman. Ella felt the ground disappear beneath her feet as she realized that the girl was identical to her. The same face, the same eyes, the same expression of astonishment. A sob escaped her throat. "What? What's happening?" Ella stammered, her mind spinning. The young woman in front of her blinked a few times, looking as confused as she was. "I'm your sister." The voice was hoarse, as if it hadn't been used for a long time. Before Ella could reply, heavy footsteps echoed through the forest. Mia appeared in the clearing, pale and trembling. She fell to her knees, mumbling words interspersed with guilty tears. "The spell. The spell should never have been cast," said Mia, her voice laden with remorse. Ella, still in shock, turned to the old crone, waiting for an explanation. It was then that the truth came out. Mia confessed that many years ago, out of envy of Sophia's happiness, she cast a spell on her pregnancy. Sophia was expecting twins, but the enchantment went wrong. Instead of preventing the two from being born, he cursed one of them to live as an animal, doomed to wander the forest without ever being recognized. Sophia, consumed by pain and fear, decided to hide the truth. He left his cursed daughter in the forest and raised only Ella, hoping the legend would fade in time. But fate never forgets. Ella felt a lump form in her throat. His chest burned with the pain of a truth that had been stolen from him his entire life. She had a sister. And the only thing this sister knew was loneliness. The truth came out. Mia confessed that, many years ago, she had cast a spell on Sophia out of envy of her happiness. Sophia was expecting twins, but the spell went wrong, and one of the children was cursed to live as an animal, condemned to roam the forest. Believing that her transformed daughter would not survive, Sophia abandoned her, while raising Ella without ever revealing the truth. Ella felt her world crumble. Everything you believed about your life, your family, and even your identity was wrong. But more than that, the pain for her sister, who had lived isolated and forgotten, consumed her. With tears in her eyes, she hugged her for the first time, promising that nothing would ever separate them again. The revelation shocked Sophia and the city's residents. But while some tried to accept the truth, Henry, repentant, tried to get closer to Ella. He wanted to resume the engagement now that the rumors had been cleared up. However, Ella, now stronger and aware of her own history, refused. She discovered that Henry never truly loved her. He just wanted to marry her to maintain his reputation and fulfill a bet between the young people of the city. The anger he felt over everything that had happened was no longer a weight he carried. Now, she knew that her destiny was tied to the sister she had finally found. The city of Ikoto was never the same after the revelation about the sisters. Although the initial shock provoked even more gossip and distrust, time brought with it a gradual acceptance. The older ones murmured about the weight of fate, while the younger ones looked at Ella and her sister with a mixture of curiosity and respect. Sophia, tormented by guilt, devoted herself entirely to her lost daughter. She spent her days trying to make up for the stolen time, teaching her about the life she never had the chance to live, showing her old photos, telling stories from Ella's childhood. However, there was an irreparable sadness in the newly discovered sister's eyes. Years of isolation and rejection had left deep scars. No matter how hard Sophia tried, she could never completely erase the suffering her daughter had gone through. Mia, on the other hand, chose a different fate. Consumed by regret, she decided to leave the city for good. Before he left, he looked for Ella and her sister one last time. "There is no forgiveness for what I did," he murmured, his trembling hands holding a small medallion. "But I want you to have this." It was an ancient amulet, carved in stone, with inscriptions so worn they could barely be read. "Time destroys many things," Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But you can't erase the blood that unites you." With these words, he disappeared into the forest, leaving only the wind and the distant sound of footsteps that were soon lost among the trees. Henry tried to approach Ella again. Now that the rumors had been cleared up and his reputation restored, he seemed willing to renew the engagement. But Ella was no longer the same young woman he had humiliated in front of the town. "I am not a trophy to be displayed when it suits you, Henry," she said, her voice firm. "True love is not made of convenience." With that, she turned to her sister and, hand in hand, they left the town square together, without looking back. Time passed, and the twins began to rebuild their lives. Ella's sister, who had lived in the skin of an animal for so many years, gradually learned to connect with people. The town, reluctant at first, began to accept her presence. Some still avoided contact, but others, moved by the story that had become almost a legend, began to see her as a symbol of mystery and strength. Together, the sisters decided to transform the past into a new beginning. They created a small refuge on the edge of the forest, where they cared for injured animals and helped lost travelers. Their home became a point of reference, a place of welcome for those who didn't fit in anywhere else. And so, while the town of Ikoto went on with its routine, Ella and her sister forged a different future, united by the bond that should never have been broken. But there was something more. Some residents swore that, on nights with a full moon, they could still see a pair of green eyes shining in the darkness of the forest. For some, it was just a wild cat, watching over the city. For others, it was a protective spirit, an echo of the spell that had never been completely broken. Ella, whenever she saw those eyes between the trees, just smiled. After all, some mysteries don't need to be solved. They just need to be lived. Years later, the story of the Ikoto twins became a legend. Many spoke about the power of love and destiny. Others, however, swore that, on nights with a full moon, they could still see a pair of green eyes shining in the darkness of the forest, watching, protecting, waiting. If you liked this story, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Let's go together towards 1,000 subscribers. And don't forget to watch our next video by clicking on the card above.